everybody. This is John Beausang for Paddle Monster. Welcome to our interview series. It's a race director series. Also, we're interviewing different organizations that are involved with getting events out on the international calendar and organizing them. And today I'm joined by Noemi Horvath and from the International Canoe Federation. And they're the global governing body for a lot of paddle sports, and they play a critical role in organizing international competitions, setting standards, and are playing a really big role in the growth of sports like stand-up paddleboarding around the world. So welcome, Noemi. Before we dive in, could you just tell me about your role with the ICF and what you guys are up to? That's a big
Yeah,
question.
thank you so much, first of all, for the opportunity to be here. It's my pleasure to be here and talk to you about I think our shared passion, stand-up paddling. So yeah, I'm leading the stand-up paddling committee of the ICF, of the International Canoe Federation, since 2021. I was re-elected last year in 24 in November in Turkey by the national federations of the ICF. So it's a really big thing for me to gain this trust from all these countries. And yeah, we are a good team within our committee. We have previous former athletes in the committee. We have ITOs, we have event organizers. So I think it's a very good mixture. So all views and all sides are represented in the committee. Yeah, if it's enough for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it sounds like you have a really diverse and interesting group that are together trying to make these decisions and these plannings. And so I mean, maybe we jump right into
Sure.
what has the ICF planned for this coming year, and maybe get into maybe start with the World Championships and um, where they are and how this year's event is planned.
Mhm. Yeah, so the ICF Stand-Up Paddling World Championships is the pinnacle event in our sport, in our discipline, when we are trying to bring together the world's best athletes in various disciplines, as you know, sprint, technical, long distance as well. And yeah, this year it will be organized in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates, which is, I think, a very unique host of this event. This is one of our key priorities to bring events to as many places in the world as possible. So last year we had the World Championship in Sarasota in the USA, so the American continent. Before in 23 we had in Asia, in Thailand, in Pattaya. The year before in 22 we were in Poland, in Europe, in 21 as well, in in Bratton Forest, sorry, in Europe. And the first one in 19 was in Asia. So we already had World Championships on 3 different continents, which is, I think, shows us that stand-up paddling is very popular in many areas of the world. And yeah, our big goals and dreams are to bring events to Oceania as well, so maybe to Australia, New Zealand, and ones to Africa as well. There's still a lot to do, but as we see, there are many good paddlers in Africa, in Australia, so all
That's for
over
sure.
the world. Yeah.
So, what kind of, with a place like Abu Dhabi well, first of all, who's able to compete in this, and how do they
Mhm.
qualify, and how do they get invited, and how does that whole system work?
Yeah, so our events are open entry events, which means that everyone basically can enter himself, herself to the event. So being member of a national federation is not a requirement from our side, but every athlete is responsible for himself and herself. There are no age restrictions for the open categories, but of course for the juniors and for the masters, we defined the age categories, so the ages, and yeah, in some countries. There are even specific qualification standards that may include national trials or performance benchmarks. So in those countries where they support their athletes to travel to the ICF events, but in many countries, everyone can enter and take part at our event. So basically, yeah, it's open to everyone all over the world.
Yeah, what kind of logistics and standards do you set up for the actual equipment, like for the boards, for instance, a 14, do you have any restrictions on length, width, or any equipment? Does all the equipment have to be shipped there, or is there like any kind of one design section or anything like that?
Yeah, this is an ongoing topic within our committee as well, if we should change our rules or if it's good right now. So right now we have a maximum length of the board, which is 14 foot, and we have a minimum weight, which is 10 kilograms. Within these two specifications, um, any board can be valid at our events. Um, we are receiving many requests or like questions about all these things. To be honest, our opinion is that we don't want to um, further restrict like what boards can be used. So we want to be fair, but we want everyone to just join us and race at our events. So we are
Mhm.
trying to make these rules loose and fair at the same time, which is a big challenge for sure. um, Right now, we provide board transportation as well and board rental as well at our World Championships. So if anyone doesn't want to ship his or her board to Abu Dhabi, there's the possibility to rent one at the location. And we, from this year, starting this year, we also have these pre-purchase options as well. So athletes can buy the newest boards from some of the board companies, and then they can receive it in Abu Dhabi. And after the event, the boards will be shipped whenever the athlete wants. I think this is a very good opportunity. So I hope that many athletes will realize the opportunity in this. But it's, of course, it's also possible that someone brings his or her own board to the event and races with that.
It must be really interesting to try and figure out the standards for these boards because,
Yeah,
it's still such a amalgamation of um, different sports and different designs from canoe to surf to kayak and even from the drop deck and the amount that your feet are able to go down. So we've had debates on whether or not people are standing in actual, like if someone was to go out in a C1 and just stand in it, would that be considered a stand-up paddleboard because they happen to be standing and paddling in it? So I
yeah.
I imagine that whole conversation and that debate along with um the board companies being represented and minimizing the standards to one set design would potentially take out. Um,
Yeah, exactly. And I think research and development is a very important thing for our sport as well, for our board brands as well. And we don't want to prevent this development in any way by restricting our rules. But still, we want to, keep the sport fair to everyone. So it's not about who has, the money to buy the newest and most expensive board. So yeah, balance is sometimes hard to find, but we are trying to work on this.
yeah, yeah, uh, I imagine that's a very complicated issue. And I know with the juniors in particular, the idea of going there was an ongoing debate about going to a one design that would make sure that all the juniors were on the same boards and have the same, and it was a lot of the times it was an access uh, type of a conversation in that they wanted people to be able to afford um, a board to be able to get into this sport. But then there were weight considerations. Then the fact that you can have a 14-year-old that's 6'4" and a 14-year-old that's 4'8", and they're the same age and same, there's, you know,
Exactly.
yeah. So there's,
Yeah.
uh, uh, it is, I know that it's been going on since we've started racing. And then, something I was wondering about with your experience in the ICF, with C1, K1, it seems like there's a lot of more flat water and almost freshwater sports, even with kayak. And do you see the growth of SUP because that's so organized and so established? Do you think there's a more structured path into the flat water sprint and distance type of races, or do you think that the addition of surf and the attachment to surf, uh, what do you think the balance, and as far as like the ability for stand-up paddleboarding to thrive and grow? Is there an area that you think is maybe more towards the ICF's experience, or more towards what they think will make it successful, or any feelings about that?
Yeah, I think we could talk about this topic for hours
Right?
and hours. We usually talk about this within the committee as well. So at ICF, there are five flat water and five like wide water disciplines. So ICF has experience in both events. We have ocean racing as one of the disciplines, for example. Ocean racing is, of course, on open water bodies. So that's quite close to this surfing kind of environment. But of course, there is this Olympic canoe sprint discipline, which is 100% flat water and lanes and everything. My experience is that athletes really like the sprint event when there is like very good timing, so photo finish and fair competition, because that's 100% about who can paddle fast. But of course, the technical race is, I think, the most spectacular. So that's the race which is almost the most viewed event. So the final of for both men and women is the one that captures everyone's attention. So this is a really good question. What we are trying to do at ICF is to bring events to different voters. So athletes with different skills and different abilities have the chance to showcase their skills. So, for example, last year we were at a canoe sprint course in Sarasota, but the year before in Thailand we were at the ocean, at open water. So yeah, I cannot tell. We had some discussions about it in the committee if we should really focus on 100% on the canoe sprint style events, or we should focus 100% of these open water events. We couldn't really agree because there are pros and cons everywhere. Yeah,
Mm.
for sprint, we really trying to have a venue or like a location which is solely on who can pedal faster. So it's not about who is trying to go in front of someone else. That is what we are trying to work on. But yeah, technical, I think it's also very very important, and long distance, of
Yeah.
course.
It's interesting too, because it seems like you have to consider the spectator value of an event, where you
Yeah,
have sprints and you can have people that are, you know, parked with chairs and, and be able to watch the whole
exactly.
thing going on. And then
Yeah,
when you have a longer event, an ocean event, it really relies heavily on drone, helicopter, all sorts of different
exactly.
boats. So
Yeah,
it's logistically, one might be really good for, I guess that's the same as when you do, like you have an enduro race where you have people watching cars going through the desert in different places, as opposed to like a horse race where they've got a camera following them around or a track
Yeah.
meet, like, it must be an interesting balance when you're thinking about an event and whether or not it's going to be televised, or most
Yeah.
of it streamed. But if you're going to be in an area, there's so many events that I've seen throughout the UK and the EU where just thousands of people lining canals to watch these paddle events, and it's just amazing. And there's something about that, the combination of television coverage or just video coverage, streaming coverage, and those crowds that together really does. And I think that's why some of the ocean races, the technical races, the in and out of the surf, they can combine that beach crowd with the
Yeah.
closed area for, so that is an interesting, um, yeah, that's a really interesting puzzle. And I guess that kind of comes from, would you say that that comes from the, when in a city or a town or an area, pitches their event for one of your series? Is that like, maybe talk a little bit about the selection criteria and, how does an event put a package together that would make sense for the ICF and fit in with what you're doing?
Yeah, first of all, just reflecting on what you said. So we need to understand that one does not exist without the other. So athletes and media, athletes and live coverage broadcasting. If there are no athletes, no need for broadcasting. But if there are no broadcasting, then, athletes don't have the chance to show themselves and, attract sponsors. So this is, as you said, it's a very nice puzzle we have to do. But yeah, we need to understand that we need to be flexible a bit in both sides to be able to cover all the expectations. Regarding how we choose the host locations, so host cities or venues are selected through a competitive bidding process where potential organizers submit their proposals, demonstrating their capacity to deliver high quality events, considering infrastructure, water conditions, safety measures, and local support as well. As I said before, the World Championship is the flagship event. Featuring comprehensive formats with multiple disciplines and top tier athletes, and of course, significant media coverage. Um, World Cups and World Ranking races are a bit smaller and regional events with more flexible formats and participant levels. And the aim is to grow the sport at local and regional level. So yeah, this is basically about the World Championship and the World Cup and World Ranking races.
Yeah. Well, is there, uh, if someone was organizing an event, or if they had an event that they wanted to adapt
Mhm.
so that it would be more suitable for the international competition, is there guidance or structures, like specific sprint distances, specific, like, what would be a good idea if there were like a couple of formats that they had so that they could have some type of comparable international competition, you know, measure? Like, are there maybe two or three events that they should really consider as far as like building with their new event?
Yeah, so on the ICF website, there are a few documents about guidelines how to host the World Championships, World Cup. It's called venue manuals, and yeah, our idea as well is to bring events to places where there is already an existing subcommunity or there is already an event, and maybe we can help them to further develop and increase the participation numbers. So I think it can be beneficial for both sides. We know that if there is a experienced organizer, we know that there will be a good event, and it's good for the organizers as well to have the ICF support in terms of media coverage, social media, and attracting more paddlers. Yeah. So, but we also like to go to places where haven't been SUP. For example, we chose Abu Dhabi especially for this reason that we would like to start something there in that area. There hasn't been any big canoeing or stand-up paddling event, and we would like to start something there and maybe go there in a few years, go back again and organize World Cups or other events as well, because we see that area is still untouched. So
Yeah.
maybe we can start something there as well. So yeah, we are trying to consider different aspects and trying to allocate the events based on all these aspects.
Yeah, are there any local, I mean, given that it's going to be in the UAE, are there any cultural or legal consider I mean, I know they've hosted MMA,
Yeah.
jujitsu, cycling, but are there any maybe cultural legal things that athletes, specifically female paddlers, should be aware of considering attire and those types of things, or is it a contained competition where like how does that work? Because I know there's some sensitivities or you know.
Yeah, we have received many questions like this, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for raising this again because I think it's very important to talk about it. So, of course, the culture is a bit different. That is a bit different than to Europe or to America or to other parts of the world. But um, our venue is will be in a closed area, so at a hotel resort. So that area is basically um, open to everything. I mean, we don't have to worry about, I don't know, not wearing long sleeves as a woman. So that is more simple. So that venue is there will be no problem with this. Of course, if someone wants to go out, especially to religious places, like there's a very nice mosque just across the water of the venue, we all should consider the cultural traditions there, but we don't have to worry about it, and it's not as strict as we would imagine. I have been there maybe 3 times in the last 1.5 year, and me as a female, I didn't have any problem with anything. Of course, when I wanted to go into a mosque, I had to follow all the regulations, but I think it's normal to follow when we go to some kind of religious place. But regarding the World Championship itself, the race, we should not worry about anything like this.
No, that sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I had one question about it, and from everything I've seen with events that they hold there and being self-contained, and exactly like you said, when leaving the area of the competition to be respectful of local,
Exactly.
traditions and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, one of the things with this series is we're trying to keep it short. I feel like I could talk to you for 3 hours on all these little things to touch on it, and that's one of the reasons
Yeah, yeah.
Larry might not be on this call this time or in this interview because I feel like there's so many wormholes on this. But I mean,
Exactly.
there's two things I'd love to end with is, what does the ICF and what do you love about SUP and like, because you're dedicating a lot of energy to the sport and, on the federation level and beyond, but, like, what what is so exciting about SUP that this is like something that the ICF is so interested in developing?
I think that the answer is quite simple to this question. Is one of the most, let's say, simple water sports to start. So like standing on a inflatable wide stand-up paddling board gives an actual and like prompt a feeling of success when someone tries it. I mean, this is my experience. Whereas kneeling down in a racing canoe or sitting in a racing kayak, it can be a bit more hard to learn. So yeah, I think even like we work on how to create that bridge between recreational stand-up paddling and high performance paddling, but we should not forget that SUP is a really good entry sports to all the canoeing sports, and I think this is what makes our discipline very strong, that even kids who maybe later will paddle a kayak or a canoe, they can start on a stand-up paddling board. They can kneel down, paddle only on one side, on their knees. They can sit down on the board with a double-bladed paddle and paddle as a kayak. So I think this is the strength of our sports. Whereas in other disciplines, you cannot really stand up or like get on your knees. Um, so yeah, this is, I think it's mutual benefit for stand-up paddling and the ICF as well. If there are many people who likes to do stand-up paddling, it's good for the whole ICF. And of course, we hope that with time we can really put it on the next level in terms of high performance sport and athletes. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been an amazing gateway um, craft for paddle sports. And you see, um, it it has gone from people learning how to surf, in the beginning that all of a sudden they were maybe haven't been able to surf, but they were able to surf on a stand-up paddleboard,
Yeah,
to understanding that whole human powered propulsion of being able to move a board and understand the water and getting used to your environment. Um,
exactly.
and it is to open your eyes to something like surf skis or kayaks or canoe or outrigger canoe. It's
Yeah,
like it seems like you're right. I think the recognizing that SUP brings people to the water helps them learn about it, appreciate it, respect
exactly.
it, and then so that's yeah, that is a key component, because I don't think it is a wake up call to get in a canoe for the first time and see how difficult that is. And not everybody has somebody with a sprint canoe in their backyard, or getting into a K1 for the first time, and it's just insane. But yeah, so anyway, I appreciate that. That's a really good point. And then so then just um I think if you were to give a race director some advice on maybe how to step up from the regional to maybe a national, international, just like something that some advice for them on like what they probably should look at if they want to take that leap.
My advice would be just go for it. I mean, don't be afraid to enter to World Cup or World Championship. Not everyone will be a pro paddler there. And once you are there, you can talk to other people, you can learn a lot. I think this is very important, and I really like this as well in our sport, that there are people share all these ideas, their experiences, so no one is hiding their training schedule, training plans. We can see many international teams going and paddling together and training together. So my advice would be that don't be afraid. There will be people who are paddling only for 1 or 2 years, and don't be afraid to ask questions and share your ideas. Maybe you will find someone with the same problems, same questions, and hopefully you will find some answers as well. So if you are really interested, don't hesitate to register to these events. the environment is 100% friendly and welcoming. So I think all the athletes are cheering for the others as well. So that would be my advice, that don't be afraid and just go for it.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll also take I'll get the link to the documents that can help them structure and figure out what the formats,
Yeah.
just so that their events start to align with the international competition. So I'll add that to the notes for this. So, well, I really appreciate your time and for helping schedule this because I know with the different time zones it's a little bit was a little bit of a challenge, but and for everyone watching, I'll put links to the ICF and to the World Championships and the World Cup events on this post and on our YouTube channel, and make sure that you join us at Paddle Monster. We're having discussions about this on the new site. There's videos, interviews, coaching if you want to add coaching and training programs, but there's a whole community of paddlers that are training for races and coordinating their travel together, sharing hotels, figuring out who has an extra board or an extra paddle. And it's just so important when you're thinking about going to these next events and going to places that you haven't been to, because I think with competition, it gives you an ability to travel to new and awesome places to paddle with people who love to paddle. So it's kind of awesome. So Noemi, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we'll get you back on this soon. And
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thank you.
all right. Well, thanks.